Let us rejoicify. Let us be glad. Something good. It's time for some fabric to be Glindified. It'll get there, I promise. It'll get there. I figured it out. It's finally time to make some progress on my bubble dress replica. It has been way too long since I have worked on this project. Way back in November, I just ran with the idea of using the Fibonacci spiral, or Fibonacci. I've heard it both ways, and I do flip-flop between the pronunciations, and tested its use with my half-scale form. This is the hour and a half of draping slimmed down to a mere minute. In this process, I was able to see what layers could go where and overall see how these skirt panels come together. But then we somehow got to a new year and the month of March with a blink of an eye. But within that blink of an eye, I did manage to create a document with all these different skirt photos pulled in to help with the next process of fully figuring out each skirt panel. This afternoon, my eyes were going very buggy trying to continue figuring out the whole skirt arrangement. I started this over 2 months ago and I pretty much haven't looked at it since then. So most of the time was just spent trying to remember what I was doing. And then I was also trying to add in some new pictures just to make sure that everything was still adding up. After several hours of a refresher, I think I finally got to the point where I need to actually get this in fabric, life size. Probably already noticed the very colorful edges. No, this is not my real fabric. This is some very cheap, like really cheap polyorganza that I have cut out, many of them, and I have color coded them so that I can then arrange them on my dress form and I can see where each skirt panel is going. I have mapped out each skirt layer and I've color coded a line. I've checked this on multiple images and multiple making of videos and all that, and I think I'm pretty accurate on it. Now the thing is, it's not just fabric that I need to use to create this mock-up. I also need to use boning. This is a detail that I discovered after I released my costume study video. I was kind of guessing there must have been something else structure-wise in the spirals and swirls. I noticed this, and then several people mentioned it, also noticing it when they saw the costume on display. And a huge thank you to those of you who have sent up close on display photos or have sent me the links or posts when new information and photos and videos are shared. I've been able to learn so many new details thanks to that. So thank you so much. It is tiny, thin plastic boning is placed along a lot of the sequined lines going throughout the skirt that I was guessing is on the under net layer. And you can also see this on some of these pre-painted or mock-ups of the dress. So to make sure I have that proper structure as I make my mock-up, I'm gonna try to tape this along the proper placement. We'll see how that works. So I'm someone who always wants to be efficient with their time, but this can be a bad thing because I tend to cut out different things that could be helpful. One of them is my skincare routine. So when I discover a product that can be used while I get something done and be efficient with it, it makes me so happy. And that's something that this mask by Foreo does. I can put it on and get all its benefits while I'm doing something like editing my videos, and it's thanks to Foreo for sponsoring this video. It is the FAQ 202, and it is the new generation of LED face masks. It has 8 different wavelengths, including NIR, which helps reduce signs of wrinkles and aging. It helps boost your skin's natural healing process and can result in smoother, softer, and less dull skin. Plus, it reduces pores and minimizes redness. It is ultra lightweight and is wireless, so I can wear it while I am editing. Plus, it's made of flex fit silicone, which is molded to fit any face shape and provides even LED coverage. After applying the Manuka base primer, I can then choose between the 8 different LED lights for the specific benefits, or I can use one of the pre-programmed treatments that I can access through their app that connects directly to the face mask. This one reduces blemishes and oiliness. This lovely green helps brighten dullness and even skin tone. If you don't want to use the app, you can just click through the different lights to achieve whatever results you're looking for. With that, this treatment is done and I can take it off and continue on to what I've been doing while I'm wearing it. So right now you can get 30% off site-wide from Foreo with my coupon code BELLA30. This is a stackable coupon with any other ongoing promotions, and these are rarely discounted items, so you definitely want to check out that link that I have in my description to browse all the other must-haves from Foreo. And then of course, horsehair braid. We've already talked about this from the costume study. This is along all those edges. And again, to make sure I get a good representation of my mock-up, I will be pinning this across all my cutout pieces. There will be one netting piece in there. This is actually not going to be the netting I end up using. Well, I thought I would use it, but then realized that it is an ombre sprayed netting throughout it all. So I did get white netting, or crinoline net is really what it's called. But also the white is stiffer than this one is, pretty flimsy, and my light died. So it won't keep its structure as well as it should. This knows the wicked die alone. I don't know what that one is. I ended up sewing it all on, but I only did 2 rows of boning. I think technically it will have around 5, I don't know yet. First off, I cut some of them as a smaller Fibonacci sequence, or like chopped off, but this one definitely needed more width to it. Also up here definitely needs to be narrowed. Well, it doesn't look like much right now. It's kind of crazy looking. So somehow they're getting a very slim top with a bunch of full, and then somehow those ruffles are staying in place without much waist to like direct them. So that's the part that I have to figure out. All the questionable parts of this that I have had for the last several months is just what curls and swirls are doing what with each panel. I think I'm getting a good shape going on. Like there's my 3 curls and they sort of work into each other. You might be thinking, what in the world, Bella? This is gonna be a complete failure because it looks ugly. And it does, it looks very ugly. The reason for a mock-up, it's not supposed to look pretty. It's not supposed to be, it's the perfect pattern. Now I'm debating if once I adjust the patterns, will I do a full another mock-up? We'll see. I don't know. What I might do is cut it out of the crinoline net. That's a little bit risky because it is expensive. So there's decisions to make. And so hopefully by next video, we will actually have a somewhat nice looking product, or at least something started. Thank you for watching. Just kidding, we're not gonna leave it there. I couldn't do that to you, and I can't do that to myself because we need to get this thing patterned and ready to move on to the next steps because there is so much to do yet, and I really want to get this replica at least to a point where it's something. But I did have a really good opportunity to study the dress. I saw the bubble dress in person, the real bubble dress. I got to see like a foot away. The Arlington Museum of Art had the Heroes and Villains exhibit, and it had the Cinderella ball gown on display. And that is why I found the museum and realized I was going right by it, and of course I needed to see the Cinderella dress. But at the same time, they had a little side exhibit going on, absolute perfect timing, and I got to walk into a room that was filled with incredible costume design. The one I focused on was obviously the bubble dress, and I spent probably a half an hour just getting different angles, getting down, seeing what I could see up under the skirts and everything. And the main thing I was really focusing on, I mean, everything I was focusing on, just the pattern, to see the different areas in real life, to see, is that layer actually going the direction I thought? There was one place in particular in the front between two panels. It seemed like it was going one way in some photos and videos and the other way in another one. At least this on display costume, I saw which way it was going. And now another thing I noticed is some tacks between the skirt layers. In the time lapse that was posted on Instagram by Paul, you can see her tacking two different panels together in different areas. So the bodice was very bulky, hardly any like tightening of the waist that we obviously see when Ariana's wearing it, but also with the dress on display in other areas. And I couldn't see the back. So I don't know if maybe the mannequin was the wrong thing or something, or they just didn't put it on all the way, or maybe it was for some like harnessing work. And so that's the hard part about like movie costumes in general. There's often so many made and they all have a different purpose for different scenes and such. So who knows what this particular one was for, but I wish I could have seen the back just to see what was really going on. Overall, what I need to do to get this to a final pattern. These were all cut as the Fibonacci spiral. That is the pattern. This area created the waist, and that is just too much going on there. And then the length from here to here is definitely too long for the length of the skirt. Kind of need to just squat it down. I'm just gonna go panel by panel, measuring the length that I like as far as the different panels. We mostly have it patterned in paper. Paper is not very fun to work with because it wrinkles and it tears, but it saved so much time from having to figure out a fabric that had structure. Mostly I'm good with it, and I do still have a couple back panels to figure out. When I was using the Fibonacci spiral as the pattern, those back pieces definitely worked better than what I currently have, so I kind of have to go back to the drawing board and do a better combination of something that has less at the top but still has that very small part, because that is definitely used in these back pieces, kind of folded up and stuff. Figure that out. And then of course there's the bodice. So I just spent some time pulling in all different photos of the bodice and also behind the scenes of the making, which has been so helpful. Recently a reel was posted with the embroiderers and their in-process shots, and that is going to help so much with this bodice drafting because I can see those lines, but there's still a lot of puzzle pieces to try to fit together to make a working bodice. I really need to get this thing patterned. I just recently watched the making of Wicked, and in there's new behind the scenes clips, and there's this new clip with Ariana trying on the dress.
How many layers of things is it?
15 kinds.
15 what?
15 of these.
Cones.
Yeah.
Cute.
Now the 15 number is confusing me. Does that mean there's 15 skirt panels, or does that mean that there are 15 swirls created among the various number of skirt panels? It could go both ways, it could be both. So far I'm having a hard time with the 15th one. Right now I have 14 panels, and that includes the one that will go into the bodice on this side. There are 4 under parts of it that you don't really ever see from the outside. So this clued me in. You see those 2 on the side that then get completely covered up with the full panels. I figured there was probably 2 more panels like that in the back, so that would help just even everything out. Also found evidence of, on one side, this particular part, you can see that extra curl that so far I cannot figure out where it would go to one of these very outer visible panels. So that's also was like, well, it's probably an under one like those front ones. And so I evened it out with one on this side.
Now, as I was re-watching the time lapse and I slowed it down and went frame by frame to see what I could pick up, I realized I missed one panel that she adds to the dress form. It's this one hanging up in the corner. It seems very small and short, and she last minute basically takes it and puts it on the other side of the dress that we can't see. It couldn't be anywhere up top because you would be able to see her visibly picking up all those panels to get up there. So I think I finally figured out where it could be based on a slight glimmer of some extra layers. It's very maybe, I don't know, so we're just guessing on this one, but I'm going to put a small 15th panel about this area, and then I think I'm gonna move this one slightly more in the back, that it's a 3 in the back section and then 2 at the front that we see.
After getting that 15th panel placed, I then got several areas pinned together using the placements shown in the time lapse.
This version is very loud. All paper. For the most part, I was able to fix all those problems, and really, I have it almost finalized. There's a few tweaks, especially to the back pieces, that I want to play with fabric to get that final pattern. I am now ready to cut this out of my crinoline net, and with that, I'll finish adding those tweaks and finalizing the pattern before I then go and cut out all the multiple silk pieces. Because the silk has multiple patterns for each skirt panel, because every side that's visible needs to be embellished and with the silk. So before I cut any of that, I need to make sure my final pattern is good and correct. And then in that step, I'm also going to draft the bodice. Now I did mostly draft this part of the bodice skirt panel. This skirt panel will go up into the bodice, and the rest is separate. I'm very happy with it. It looks completely ridiculous made out of paper, but it got the job done.
For the most part, I cut my panels a bit shorter than my paper pattern because the net will get the 2-inch horsehair attached to the edge, plus the silk will go a bit longer than that. So I didn't want to end up trimming a bunch off. I am so proud of myself right now. I just figured out something that was puzzling my brain for the last half an hour, and I was trying to just make it work. I almost gave up and was like, no, I think I can figure this out. So I was getting very frustrated, but I figured it out. So what I'm talking about is this particular shot in the embroidery reel. This is the left side of the bodice as you're wearing it, so right as you're looking at it, and it's the side that has the petal shape that flips open. Those 2 little humps made sense with the petal design, but it also didn't make sense with the curls that they have marked on there, and also the fact that little section is very small, but on this photo, that first curved part is very long, and then it's a small one. But the petal shape that wraps around to the back is the long part, and it's not a flipped image because the writing on the gems are correct. I don't know, something weird is going on. It's got to be that section, but the measurements don't add up and the curls don't add up. I realized, wait, what if it is flipped? But it's not the image, it's the pattern piece that eventually gets flipped to create that design right there. Sure enough, I made a little mock-up. So we have that long curve and then the small little attached one, and then we have this random one here. So I just kind of found a place for it, marked some things on the reverse, because that's also something I noticed as I was zooming in. It was like those snaps on there, they seem like they're on the beading side and not behind it. And sure enough, they are. So anyway, if we take this, we flip this pattern around like this. Ta-da! This part attaches to the curved part of the bodice here. And then this is the petal shape. This edge will flip down to create that open petal look. This little thing, at first I was like, what in the world is it? It, I believe, helps like cover up and merge this into the next pattern piece of that back bodice. And then it all clicked when I realized that I had noticed this a long time ago, that there's this hard edge coming down from that bodice petal shape. So it worked. I can't believe it worked. I believe I finally figured that out and I can move on to patterning the rest of the bodice. I feel like the rest is fairly straightforward as far as what's doing what. I don't know if we get much more of this backward thing going on, but I will be on the lookout for it because this is evidence that some interesting, unique pattern techniques were used in this bubble dress. The bodice is mostly there as far as the overall shapes of each piece, but there are some areas that need to be tweaked to make sure they fit me correctly. And also I'm gonna do several more mock-ups of this pattern before I start beading it, because once I start beading it, the pattern needs to be completely finalized.
It's been in the works for a while, but I can finally say that the bubble dress is patterned. It's nearly there, like 95% there, but it is done enough to move on to starting to do all the embellishment of the skirts. Just to start off with, we need to add boning and the sequins to all these, and also ombre paint them, which will be a learning curve for me. And then of course, all the silk pieces that need to be cut and arranged, and then the bubbles and gems and all that attached to them. It's gonna be a very long road, but it feels so good to have the pattern mostly done. On that note, I do have the pattern available on my shop, or it'll be the finished pattern on my shop, but you can find the link down below in the description to pre-order, or if you're in the future, to order right now and get right away. With that, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to continue on this journey of making the bubble dress and also other projects that I'm making. And as always, a huge thank you to my patrons and YouTube members and Instagram subscribers for their continued support. Especially grateful during this phase where I'm just investing a lot of time and money into one project. But anyway, now go out there and learn, create, and inspire.